Hi everyone, and welcome back to English for You. I am Pat.
And I'm Ben.
So we're on day 2 of our article, Murder on the Orient Express, this famous detective story by Agatha Christie. So let's recap what we know and what we've got in the story so far. We see that Belgian detective Hercule Poirot is on his way to London.
Yeah, and then his friend Beau gets him on the Orient Express train.
Yeah, which goes all the way there. Now, on the train, Poirot is approached by Samuel Ratchet, who has been receiving letters from people who want to kill him.
Oh, so scary, but Poirot refuses to help him, believing him to be an evil man.
Yeah, I'm not helping. Even if you are in trouble, I'm sorry, I can't help you in this particular thing. Now we see the train gets stuck in the heavy snow. So instead of moving through the night and arriving at the new station, the train is not moving and there is thick snow all around it.
Yes.
I want to emphasize that because it's an important clue point that will come up in day 2.
Yes, so what happens? They get stuck in snow and Poirot is woken up by a scream from Ratchet's first class cabin. Yeah, he looks outside.
Yep, and a conductor comes to check, but a voice says, it is nothing.
Oh, it's nothing. Now, that's a question mark we also had. What could be wrong? But Poirot can't help but feel that things don't add up.
Yeah, and today we will find out more and also find out exactly why this story is called Murder on the Orient Express. Let's read through day 2.
Reading.
Murder on the Orient Express. The following morning brings shocking news. Ratchet has been murdered, and he was stabbed 12 times. Worse still, the killer is still aboard the train. Poirot arrives at the scene of the crime and finds it curious. The window has been left open, which implies that the killer climbed out of it. However, it has been snowing outside, and Poirot cannot see any footprints. Poirot turns away from the window and spots a clue. It's a small piece of burnt paper with the name Armstrong written on it. Suddenly, things become clearer. The reason why someone wanted to kill Ratchet is that his name isn't Ratchet at all. It's Cassetti. A few years ago, Cassetti kidnapped a 3-year-old girl named Daisy Armstrong. Daisy's parents were very wealthy, and Cassetti wanted them to pay a huge amount of money for their daughter. However, once they did, he killed the little girl anyway. Poirot enters into a trance-like state, eager to get to the bottom of the mystery.
All right, so let's go to the article. Now, the following morning brings shocking news. Shocking means something, wow, it's kind of, what happened? Just as a question mark as to what's going on.
Yes, kind of super surprising, but also kind of terrible as well. But in this case, maybe it's not as surprising as all that, because as we learn, Ratchet has been murdered and he was stabbed 12 times.
12 times.
So, this wasn't just a kind of a quick one stab and done. This was a lot of stabs.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a couple of words to look at in this sentence. The first one is murder. It's a verb here. We can use it as a noun. As a verb, to murder is to kill someone in an illegal way, a criminal way, often in a violent way. A murder is classed as one of the most serious of crimes. It is punished by many years in jail, often life in jail, or in some parts of the world, by the death penalty. So if you kill somebody in a war, it's usually not classed as murder. If you accidentally hit someone with your car and they die, that is classed as a different crime. It's not usually classed as murder. But murder is usually you plan to kill someone and you do it kind of thing. That's a murder. So in this detective story, we see as an example, the detective must find the killer before he murders anyone else. And of course, murder can be a noun. It describes that it's the name of the crime. There has been a murder, meaning there has been an unlawful killing. So in this case, the murder was by stabbing.
Oh, yeah, that sounds very aggressive. Yes, stabbing 12 times. Now, stab, this verb means to aggressively poke someone with something sharp. Now, think of when you put a straw into pearl milk tea. That is a stab, a very quick poke-like action. Yeah, so here's an example sentence. He stabbed his straw into the cup. Yeah.
Exactly. So, of course, when we're talking about stabbing with murders, we mean somebody is using a knife or some other weapon like that. So, this is pretty bad news, but as the article says, worse still, which means even worse, the killer is still aboard the train. So the murderer, the villain of this story, is on the train. So who knows what could happen next?
This is why this is a mystery, because we do not know what happens.
Yeah, but there are other passengers, which means it must be one of the other passengers.
Exactly. So the article says Perot arrives at the scene of the crime and finds it curious. Now let's trace back and let's look at this phrase, arrive at. Now, this means to come to a place. Now, think of when we take a train to Taichung or Kaohsiung. We arrive at our location. Now, sometimes it's not planned, such as when we arrive at the wrong location. Either way, when we arrive at somewhere new, a new place that we once were, that is to arrive somewhere else.
Okay, so he arrives at the scene of the crime. The scene of the crime is the place where the crime took place, where the crime happened. And a crime, of course, is something that is against the law. So we've already talked about one kind of crime, a murder. We could talk about stealing something. That is a crime. We could talk about, it could be as simple as parking your car in the wrong place.
Small, big crimes.
Yeah, there's many different kinds of crimes. It's basically anything where there's a law that says you can't do this. This is not allowed. So here's an example sentence. Driving faster than the speed limit is a crime. So if the speed limit is, say, 60 kilometers an hour and you drive at 65, you are breaking the law. You are committing a crime.
Yes.
Of course, this crime is murder, and how lucky you have a detective, one of the world's best detectives, on the train to investigate this crime.
Wow, that is perfect right there.
Yeah, it says. So he's curious. Why is he curious?
Yeah, let's look at the article. Now, the window has been left open. Which implies that the killer climbed out of it. Yeah, so there's some clues here. Now, let's look at this word imply. It's a verb, and it means to suggest that something is true, or to make a smart guess about something. For example, if a person's muddy shoe prints were inside the house, we can imply that the person was walking with his or her shoes inside. It's kind of a fuzzy feeling that makes you think, oh, it could be this or it could be that. The clues add up here to imply.
It kind of means it points in that direction.
Yeah,
it's a very strong kind of meaning that that something is true, but it's not 100%
exactly.
proof.
Now here's the example sentence. James said the movie was okay, but the way he talked implies that he didn't really enjoy it.
So we can kind of guess his real meaning from the way he talks.
Probably not the best.
So the window is open. So if the window is open, that may mean that the killer, if all the doors, we think, hang on, this is a cabin, a train cabin. You lock the door at night, of course, to stop anyone stealing it. And Ratchet, who was sent threatening letters, of course he would have locked his door. So they would have found the door locked. But the window is open, which kind of implies the killer climbed out of the window. However, as the article says, it has been snowing outside and Poirot cannot see any footprints. Right? I'm just noticing Ben's face here as his eyebrows are like, what?
Yeah, no footprints? That's interesting.
Exactly.
There's no footprints. That does not add up.
It does not. So footprints are the mark or marks a foot leaves on the ground when someone has walked on that ground. Now, footprints are very easy to see in snow because, of course, it presses them down, or in dust or in mud because of it disturbs it. But it's a lot harder to see a footprint, say, on ice or even on the sidewalk, unless someone is wearing a very dirty shoe or the sidewalk is very dirty itself. It's difficult to see footprints, but in a thick snow like they have here, it should be really obvious.
Easy,
like, you can't easily, and even if you try and hide it, that will show. So hang on. Then why is the window open? Did the killer climb out? It can't happen.
No, exactly. So
there would be some kind of evidence.
Yeah, so this is really
what does that mean?
Yeah.
Does that mean the killer somehow went through a locked door and then locked it again, even though he was outside? What is going on?
This is very bizarre, very interesting. Yeah, so the article says, Perot turns away from the window and spots a clue. All right, this might point us in the right direction. We have a clue here. Now, we see this phrasal verb that says turn away from. Let's start here. It means to position yourself in a different direction. For example, if I am facing the window 1 second, then I look another way and hold my view there, I am turning away from where I was originally facing.
Yeah, so he basically just kind of turns around and he sees a clue. And I feel like we should have some kind of sound effect here, like dun, dun, dun.
Oh, yes, the dramatic
something like that. Okay, so he finds a clue. We've kind of talked a little bit about clues already at different times in this article. A clue is a piece of information that hints at the solution to a problem. It's often used in crime stories to talk about pieces of evidence. So it could be if they find the murder weapon, that's a clue. If they find something the killer left behind, that's a clue. If it's something the detective or police officer is told, that is a clue. Maybe it's something about the background of one of the suspects, that can be a clue. All of it is a piece of information that you kind of have to add together and work out how it fits together to come to the end solution. Here's an example sentence. The dead man was very rich, which might be a clue to why he was killed.
Oh, that is a very strong
Exactly.
clue.
Like, they killed him to get his money. Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
So we have a good... What is this clue that Poirot has found?
Yeah, well, the article says it's a small piece of burnt paper with the name Armstrong written on it. Now, let's rewind a little bit and let's look at burnt, this adjective, which means to have been on fire and is now turning black and has a crispy and a hard feel to it. Now, think of leaves. When they are placed in the fire, they turn black and they curl up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So somebody has set fire to a piece of paper. But why? And what is the name Armstrong all about? The article says, suddenly things become clearer. But why? What is this Armstrong and what is the why is this a clue to the whole case?
That is the question right here. Yeah, the article says the reason why someone wanted to kill Ratchet is that his name isn't Ratchet at all.
Dun, dun, dun.
No way. Yeah, it's Cassetti, so it's not what we expected.
Exactly. Now, we will explain why it being Cassetti is important in a moment, but first let's look at the grammar pattern, the reason why. Now, we follow this pattern, the reason why, with a subject and a verb. So the reason why someone, subject, wanted to kill Ratchet, verb. Now we use the reason why to show the reason for or the explanation for something. Now, for these kind of sentences, there are usually two clauses. The first clause tells us the thing we want the reason for. So the reason why someone wanted to kill Ratchet. And the second clause will generally begin with a be verb, such as is or was, and then the second clause will provide the reason. So the second clause here is that his name isn't Ratchet after all, it's Cassetti. So first clause tells us what we want to know the reason for, second clause gives that reason. Now, as well as using the reason why, we could also use the reason that in the same way. For example, the reason that I couldn't go to the party is because I was sick. So let's look at another example using the reason why. The reason why I was late for work is that I was caught in traffic. So again, what we want an explanation for first, and then the explanation for afterwards. The reason why this happened is because of this. So let's get back to the article and find out about this Cassetti-Armstrong business.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I'm very curious about it. So the article says a few years ago, Cassetti kidnapped a 3-year-old girl named Daisy Armstrong. Ooh, now let's look at kidnap, this verb. Now, kidnap means to take by force, more specifically, a person. Now, the difference between kidnap and steal is that you can steal objects like a pen or money, whereas you kidnap a person or someone is kidnapped. So it's only a person. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this. So Ratchet wasn't Ratchet. He was Cassetti. Cassetti was clearly a criminal. In the book, it tells you that he was a very violent, very nasty criminal. So kind of Poirot's whole feeling that this is an evil man, Ratchet is evil, was absolutely correct because he wasn't Ratchet. He was Cassetti, this evil guy. Now, let's find out a bit more about the kidnapping of Daisy Armstrong. We see in the article that Daisy's parents were very wealthy and Cassetti wanted them to pay a huge amount of money for their daughter. Now, this is I've seen a few movies and read books where kidnapping is part of the plot, and there is a word here we use to talk about the money that's paid. It's called a ransom, R-A-N-S-O-M, ransom. That is the word for money you pay to a criminal to get a kidnapped person back. So basically, Cassetti wanted this big ransom. He kidnaps their daughter and says, pay me, $100,000 or, and I'll give your daughter back. And that's kind of the way the criminal worked.
Yeah, we see that a lot in society, yeah. But let's look at the article. However, once they did, he killed the little girl anyway.
What an evil man.
Very evil, yeah.
So no wonder people wanted to kill him and were sending him death threats. And maybe the burnt letter was one of these death threats, but it maybe had a lot of the details about who the killer was on it. So now we're back to finding out who killed Cassetti. And we see that Poirot enters a trance-like state, eager to get to the bottom of the mystery. So a trance is a state in which someone isn't fully awake. They don't really respond to words or outside events. They're either dreaming or thinking very deeply, or their mind has gone blank. So Poirot has kind of pushed away everything else, all the other thoughts, and is just sitting there with his eyes closed thinking.
All right, now we also have a word that says get to the bottom of something. Now, this means to find out the cause of something or what has happened. Now, many times in a mystery, we have to find out what happened or to get to the bottom of it. It's to see, what's the cause of something?
Exactly. Yeah. Who did it and why did they do it and how did they do it? And that is indeed the mystery. A mystery is a problem or a set of events in which the solution is unknown and likely very strange. So it's not obvious. You can't look at it and go, okay, I see what happened here. This led to this, and this is the result. A mystery is something you just go, I don't know what happened. It could have been this, or it could have been this, or I have no idea. For example, Sherlock Holmes solved many mysteries in the stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Other mysteries include, what happened to that ship? There was a famous ship, the Marie Celeste, which just kind of turned up one day and there was no one on it. All the passengers were gone, all the crew was gone, but the ship wasn't damaged. Everything was fine. What happened to the people?
How interesting.
To this day, no one knows. That is a mystery. Now, we will start to find out about the mystery in day 3. We'll put all these clues together and give you the solution. But right now, it's time for us to go to our For You chat question.
For You chat.
All right, so here's our For You chat question. Now, Pat, after learning about Ratchet's past, do you think differently of his death?
Well, yes. After finding out that he was a criminal who kidnapped a young girl and then killed her, you kind of can't help but feel like you deserve to die. You can't kill children. Killing children is like the worst.
Horrible.
So, if he'd been caught by the police, I'm sure the police back in the time when this story was written would have hanged him. He would have been killed for his crime. So, looking at this crime, if the Armstrong people, the parents left alive, maybe wanted some kind of revenge, you go, well, hang on, is this justice? But then you go, well, isn't this, we have to let the police deal with this if you can't go around, killing people who do wrong things yourself. There are laws, there are courts, there are police officers, there are jails. What do you think? Is it right to kind of kill people who've done bad things?
No, well, that's actually, well, if you phrase it like that, it's still wrong regardless. But, I think they deserve to be killed, kind of. If you killed someone, you should, I don't want to say be put to death, but you should have a very harsh penalty as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say what's right and what's the actual correct answer.
Yeah, and that's what makes the story so interesting, because you put in a place, what's more important, the actual law or the kind of the feeling of real justice, that sort of thing. I think one thing we can both agree on is that we're not very sad that Ratchet has died.
Exactly.
So this is an unusual kind of case, because instead of, it's a murder, but you're not looking at, the poor person who was killed. You're going like, well, I don't care that he was killed, but I just still have to find out who did it and why, because, because that's kind of the law, the rules, the mystery.
Yeah, solve the case.
But maybe it's better that he died, and maybe finding the solution is not going to be so helpful.
Exactly. If he didn't die, he could have committed more murders in the
that's
future.
True. Yes, exactly. I'm sure he would have continued being a criminal, so kind of removing him one way or another is probably a good thing. Okay, well, that is the end of day 2. We'll come back tomorrow and finish this story and reveal the solution and the killer. See you then. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Murder on the Orient Express. The following morning brings shocking news. Ratchet has been murdered, and he was stabbed 12 times. Worse still, the killer is still aboard the train. Poirot arrives at the scene of the crime and finds it curious. The window has been left open, which implies that the killer climbed out of it. However, it has been snowing outside, and Poirot cannot see any footprints. Poirot turns away from the window and spots a clue. It's a small piece of burnt paper with the name Armstrong written on it. Suddenly, things become clearer. The reason why someone wanted to kill Ratchet is that his name isn't Ratchet at all. It's Cassetti. A few years ago, Cassetti kidnapped a 3-year-old girl named Daisy Armstrong. Daisy's parents were very wealthy, and Cassetti wanted them to pay a huge amount of money for their daughter. However, once they did, he killed the little girl anyway. Poirot enters into a trance-like state, eager to get to the bottom of the mystery.
Vocabulary Review. Murder. The woman was sent to jail after she murdered her husband. Stab. Daniel was rushed to hospital after a thief stabbed him with a knife. Crime. Burning the national flag is considered a crime in some countries. Imply. Tina hasn't said she wants to quit her job, but the way she talks about it implies that she wants to. Clue. In this board game, players have to find clues to help them guess who the killer is. Mystery. 20 years after George disappeared, what happened to him is still a mystery.
智慧小补帖
Footprint. Kidnap. Trance.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net English4u.net。